Actually, this applies to everybody here. Einstein says that everybody in this class and everybody that follows the things that I'm developing are intelligent people. Seriously, he says, the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. So as I change the formulas and everything, and everybody keeps up, it just shows how intelligent you are. Okay, what we're going to do tonight is talk about two main things. One, I'd like to talk a little bit about the new essential light. And yes, it does keep changing. It's been actually, what we have now that we're going to taste tonight is kind of the tail end of 20 years of evolution. It started out about 20 years ago with a product that we called Cell Light. Very simple, whole food drink, but it has evolved and evolved and evolved, and the neat thing is that it's now not only a complete food, but it's also a type of supplement that the body can recognize. I'm gaining a greater understanding and appreciation for the fact that the body really doesn't do so well with isolated, especially synthetic vitamins. And here, excuse me, young man.
You call me young.
You know the drill. Since you don't have any old cells in you, you can't be old. You know, you take different isolated vitamins or minerals or any isolated singular substance like that, and you put it together with another one, and now you start out and you see what each of these are to accomplish, but you put them together, and if you think about every substance individually having a different energy frequency, each one, this one has a frequency that will accomplish these things. This one has a frequency that will accomplish this. When you put them together, what are you going to get? Who knows? That's the reason why over the last few years I've been moving away from all isolated vitamins and minerals and going to more concentrated extracts of whole foods. Like for B complex, actually using the brewer's yeast with the chromium in it. Now, as I've mentioned before, the debittered brewer's yeast and the nutritional yeast both have the chromium removed. And that's one of the big reasons why we use brewer's yeast is for the chromium. And then, of course, the B vitamins as well. And then it has many other nutrients, but to use whole food extracts and combine those together is kind of like having your peas and your carrots and different vegetables and foods on the same plate and eating it in the same meal. It's not quite the same as having isolated frequencies joining together, creating a new frequency that who knows what it'll actually accomplish. And there's a lot of research studies going on about this now, starting to prove one thing, that because of these combinations, it's possible to be causing more harm than good. And another thing is, which I've been realizing for a long time, when we supplement beyond the body's ability to utilize what we're taking, everything, no matter how much you paid for it, is no better than junk food from McDonald's. If it's in excess, it's not going to do the body good, it's going to do the body harm. And we've all observed life as people have eaten horribly for most of their young adult life and youth. All this volume of cooked foods that didn't have that much nutrition in anyway, and then the exhausting of the body to pull what little nutrient there was in the foods that were being consumed, but the body continued functioning quite well. Okay, so we realized, well, the body really doesn't need huge volumes of every single nutrient. But the key to it is simplicity if you don't make the body sort through 5 pounds of stuff to get those nutrients that it does need. And that's the reason why, like with the essential light, we've been working toward a very simplified, easy for the body to utilize concentrate of nutrition in a form that the body can recognize without the large volume of bulk that it has to process and eliminate. And so, especially when you take the powders and you blend it with ice water, and the reason for the ice water is 2 things. The actual ice cubes in the blender will act like anvils for the blades to hit against and break the particles up very quickly. Plus you can blend it then for a longer period of time before the blender jar starts feeling a little bit warm. So you've got it to a real fine particle, because when you start drinking it, you get that feels like a little bit of sand in your throat if you don't blend it long enough. Then when you take the strainer out and you think, well, I'd like to have a more comfortable drink, so you strain part of the goodies out and drink the rest, well, you're wasting your food. And so it's worth it to follow the directions. You know, don't wait until all else fails to follow the directions, but follow the directions first, and it'll not only be more enjoyable, but it'll deliver all the groceries that you have in the combination. I was also looking at a comparison because I don't know, I kind of have spoiled taste buds, so I kind of lean toward things tasting a little bit nicer. And so I'm still a little partial toward the essential light that's made with the whole cane sugar. Come on in. But with the one that we're going to taste tonight, adding 1 raw egg to it and 2 tablespoons of coconut oil. The ideal for a ketogenic diet is 5 to 10% carbohydrate for the calories, 10 to 15% for the protein, and again we're talking about measuring of calories, and then 75 to 80% for fats. Well, the one that we're going to taste tonight, by adding an egg and 2 tablespoons of flax oil, we hit in at 4.18%, which is below the minimum on the ideal, which is great because we're talking about the ability to utilize this for cancer patients and diabetics and anybody that wants to be a little bit more strict on a ketogenic diet. So it's kind of the ideal for anyone to be a little bit low on the carbohydrates, unless you're an athlete, then you'll run out of fuel there a little bit. Then with the protein, it's 11%, which the ideal is 10 to 15, so we're in there in a nice comfortable position. And then the fats, the ideal is 75 to 80, and the fats in this one would be 85. And so we're a little bit over the ideal on the fats and oils. The sugar one, remember the ideal is 5 to 10%. The sugar is 17.9, so we're a little bit beyond the ideal. Protein is 8%, where the ideal is 10 to 15, so it's a little bit low on protein, but the fats bring it up to 74%, which is almost to the ideal.
Is the majority of the fat the flaxseed?
Yes.
Flaxseed?
No.
It's coconut.
The oils from the nuts and seeds and flaxseed. No, there's no flaxseed in there. It's from the seeds and nuts. Come on in, please. And then adding the 2 tablespoons of coconut oil.
Mick, on the 2 tablespoons, is that with the original recipe, you know, with the 3 cups of ice?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 cup of the powder, the quart of ice and water,
Yeah.
and then you blend that, and when the blender jar is just barely warm, that's when you put the coconut oil in.
Oh, right.
Otherwise
I've been only using 1. I'm glad to up it.
Yeah,
But But,
You know,
but,
since we've
but,
been-
but why wait to put it in?
Because if you put it in the beginning, the coconut oil will lock into the foam on top, and then when you chill it, you'll be chewing the top part of your drink.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun, but you know.
Can you lessen the amount of water to make it thicker? So
Yeah.
that it is more entertaining too?
If you want.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, another neat thing about blending it to that consistency is you talk about a serious chewing effect, like chewing your food to an absolute liquid. The body doesn't have to do hardly anything to digest all those, the seeds, nuts, and all the nutrients. You drink that and it's almost something that'll just go right into the bloodstream and be utilized almost immediately. So we're quite happy about the results of that. I think we're finally here. Could you start getting us some reads? Thank you. Yes, Jack.
Is your formula there on the carbs and protein and all, is that with or without an egg?
This is with one egg.
With one.
Or you could add, if you didn't want to use the egg, you could use whey protein isolate. I'd recommend not using whey powders because, especially if you're an O type, they're a little bit tougher to deal with. The whey protein isolate is kind of like a pre-digested protein. So it, again, just like the rest of the ingredients, will move faster into the areas where you need it.
Is that the difference between the whey protein and whey protein isolate? Is that the isolate is pre-digested?
Yes, it's kind of like having amino acids, supplementing with amino acids. They're already broken down into their smaller form. The amino acids in whey protein isolate is isolated. I don't know if it's a pre-digestive process, but the end result is basically the same as being already processed, digested.
Pea protein?
I'm sorry?
Can you use pea protein?
Sure. Yeah.
And when you were talking about the coconut oil, is it that, were you saying coconut oil and flaxseed or just coconut oil?
Just coconut oil.
Okay.
Or, if you want to use
Use
flaxseed
flaxseed
oil too.
instead, right,
Yeah, that's
okay.
just your fats. Add whatever fats you want. What I do is I put 2 tablespoons of coconut oil in, and then I use the MTC oil, one tablespoon of MTC. I found that when I put 2 in, it felt too much like gallbladder flush. Took the fun out of it.
MTC, 1 tablespoon and 1 tablespoon of the coconut oil.
Well, I put 2 tablespoons of the coconut and 1 of the MTC. Because I was looking to bump the fats in every way possible. Yes?
Do you have a plant-based,
A what?
plant-based essential light?
Yes. All of them have, the basis are ingredients like the rice bran, moringa, and food concentrates.
The whey protein isolates, is that derived from cheese? Or where does it come from? Where it's extracted from?
Well, it comes from, remember Little Miss Muffet? The curds come to the top and the whey is the water on the bottom. And then they take the whey and they can separate the minerals out of it and the proteins. And so this is the whey separated out of the water. And then it's broken down into the individual components, the amino acids. Like a pre-digested process, however they do it. Okay? Well, in a second, we'll have refreshments. There's another reason for us giving you all samples. We would love your feedback. Now, a lot of you, I think, will probably say, hey, just pull the sweetness down a little bit. The glycemic index of the sugar in this is real close to 0 because it's a combination of erythritol and xylitol, but we bumped it up with stevia so that we wouldn't have to use so much of the alcohol sugars. And so you get the light feel of the alcohol sugars, and of course the body, I think it's probably both of them. The reason why the glycemic index is so low on both of them is because the body can't break them down. And so, hey, you two, you're going to have to stay after class if you keep interrupting the class now.
Why wouldn't you use stevia straight as a sweetener?
Just because of the
Flavor?
flavor. See, I told you I have spoiled taste buds. But I figure that if it can taste pleasant and deliver all the groceries, you know, we're making 3 forms. There's always the one that has no sweetener in it, and then you can use frozen berries or whatever you want to make it taste any way you want. Then there's the one still with the cane sugar, which even though it gives you that little bit of sugar, which is probably less than a lot of other foods that you'd be consuming, especially since you figure that that small quantity of sugar that is in there is divided into 3 portions through the day. We've got that one, and then the new one with the combination of the 3. So you still have plenty of choice of what you'd want to do. Yes.
Can we still put the chocolate in it?
Sure.
Other than the sugar, is there any difference on the 3 of them?
No. Yeah, everything is the same. Let me see. The one with no sugar has more rice solubles in it, which of course, if you take rice, which is, I think, basically a complete food, and you polish it, you've got the white rice, which is just a starch, nothing but sugar, and then all the nutrients are in the bran and the polishings. And so what we do is we take the groceries, the actual groceries, which is the smaller part of the rice, and that's what we put into the essential life. Yeah.
Of the 3 equal portions that the concoction yields, what would you say the grams of sugar are per portion of the cane sugar?
That would be the 17.9%.
Grams. What's percent? But how many grams would that be?
18, I think.
Divide that by 3?
18 divided by 3,
So 6 grams?
6 per serving. 6 grams.
You got me. I haven't looked at that lately. After I get through formulating, I don't look at them that close unless I'm trying to figure something else out.
Is that, if you have an irritated colon, is that going to mess it up, or is most of it digested in the body?
No, this is the reason why we're going to be talking more about the Biofilm Flush, because I'm starting to realize probably about 98% of all the intestinal disorders, which that's where all of our problems actually originate, is in the intestinal tract. Most of them have to do with either a biofilm or a biofilm. Because that's the main reason for the blockages in the intestinal tract. It's the reason why H. pylori is difficult to clear out, and it's the reason why once a person finds out that they're overrun by candida, it's so difficult to get rid of it. It's because of the biofilm. It's like a little fort where these little bacteria can hide and reproduce without being destroyed. And so we've come up with a plan to just do to nuke their little nest so that we can take them out. And now I believe that that's the real starting point for anybody on a health program, is to start with totally clearing the intestinal tract that way.
Coconut oil was in the news a couple months ago for being kind of unhealthy.
It's
What's
been
your
in
take
the
on that?
news for being unhealthy for probably 20 years, off and on.
What's your take on it?
It's very healthy. Now, it depends, a lot of these things, it depends on exactly where you're looking. It's like with the egg. Oh, I get one too? Thank you. It's like the egg, you know, from the cholesterol point of view, there's been all kinds of lies come up about the egg, but you know, when you get down to look at the whole egg, it's kind of the ideal protein parallel to the needs of the body, and there are dozens and dozens of fantastic benefits of the egg, but then at the same time, there are little critters inside the eggs that aren't so healthy for the body. So you kind of have to look at another point of view there, and that's kind of like the way I look at the foods that are on your avoid list in Eat Right for Your Type. You know, there are certain things that you have to reason out, are the nutritional benefits greater than the possible negatives? And so that's kind of an intuitive call, and everybody being different, each person needs to be responsible for what works best for your own body. Now, it's one of my goals in the future to see if I can saturate young chicks with, not female chicks, actual chicks, saturate them with microparticle silver to the point of clearing all viral loads out of their bodies that they inherit. And that way, as adult hens, they won't be laying bad eggs.
What would you give them to get rid of?
Just make about 80% of their water straight microparticle silver water. Same like colloidal silver, just making 80% of everything that they drink straight colloidal silver. And if they turn blue, that'll be okay. We might have blue eggs. But anyway, we'll have viral-free eggs. Now, what was her name? Virginia Livingston Wheeler, back about 30 years ago, was doing a lot of research. And I don't know how that parallels with everything else, but she was finding that every chicken and every egg has what she called progenitor cryptocites. And so they were working on a project where they could kill that in the chickens and start a breed that were free in that way. But you think about all animal husbandry anymore, and most of it is not animal friendly. And so, of course, we're going to have problems in the meat, dairy, and poultry industries because of improper husbandry of the animals. And so, two projects that I would like to take on in the future, and that is fish and chickens, to get them completely cleared and provide them the proper nutrition. Because that's another problem, is the quality of the feed, because that becomes what the animal is. And we still, as long as we're at this level of ignorance in the process of living on this planet, we still need a lot of help from the animal kingdom to bump us to a wiser level to where we can do without them. And that is the goal, is to get to the point where we don't need the animals, but through the research that I did years ago through hair analysis, they found time and time again that most conditions, until you get the body completely detoxified and rebuilt, it's so difficult to get to that next level on your own. I believe that it's still possible, but it's just very difficult. And that has to do with amino acids, probably mostly to do with amino acids. Neat thing is, nowadays they have probably every isolated amino acid that a person would need, and if you made a thorough enough study of your natural diet, if you are a vegetarian, and then just fill in with the amino acids that a plant-based diet is lacking according to the profile of protein in your own body. See, each one of us have a different profile of proteins in our body and amino acids that we're deficient of. And so according to those deficiencies, now you can take that isolated amino acid and keep taking that until you get your levels bumped up. And of course, things like B12 and folic acid is not that big of a deal because they got the little sublinguals. So there are ways to where you can still accomplish it without relying on animals, but the average person is not going to put that much effort in. And that's kind of what I'm anticipating, is we're coming into a phase of transitioning. In fact, my ideal vision for the future is for those who are waking up and becoming aware enough to take responsibility for the fact that we're breaking our own bodies down and we can turn that around ourselves, rather than worrying about diagnostics and treatment of symptoms and disease. I would like to see everyone become aware of the fact that since we're breaking it and we can stop breaking it at any time that we become aware of that, then all we need is the information to transition from this area of self-destruct where we need diagnosis and treatment over into an area where we follow the principles of health and follow that path till we get to a level of health where disease cannot exist. Because a truly healthy person doesn't need any form of treatment, and they can't develop disease. A healthy person cannot get sick. A truly healthy person. Now, we all know people that claim that they're healthy and they get sick, but a truly healthy person cannot get sick or develop a disease. That's the goal. And the doctor of the future needs to be a transitional facilitator, facilitating this transition from self-destruct and symptoms and disease into an area where the focus is on creating higher and higher levels of health. Okay? And that's the reason why I keep altering the program and fine-tuning it, because I want to make it so simple that, you know, I just look back every 10 years for the last 30 years, I keep looking back farther and farther, and I think, oh, man, I'm glad we don't have to do that. The same things we were doing 10 years ago. I'm sure glad that we don't have to do the same things we're doing 20 years ago. Those of you that have been around for 15, 20 years, you remember meal packs and things like this?
Oh, yeah.
Look at all the simplifications now. Just drinking a drink 3 times a day. It's like, not all the pills. In fact, when you stop and think about it, how many of us are still thinking that we still need to take our essential light and then more pills? Well, do we or don't we? Yeah? Yes.
Could you use, if you didn't use an egg, could you use bone broth? I mean, could you take bone broth
Sure.
with it?
That'd be great. Whatever form of just bumping the amino acids up a little bit would be a great idea. Sure.
I
Yes.
missed that. Are you suggesting that we should add an egg to the essential light?
Uh-huh. Or whey protein isolates or bone broth.
Doesn't the essential light have already?
It
Whey
has protein,
protein
but not
isolates?
quite enough. And it would be better to ideally have a fuller animal source protein, or now it does have about 3 overlapping sources of complete proteins, because moringa is one of the very few plant sources that have a complete amino acid complex. The whey protein isolate, of course, is a second. And there's one more. There's 3 complete proteins in there.
Rice?
I don't remember if the rice solubles is a complete protein. It might be. But there's at least 3 in there that are complete proteins overlapping, but the protein quantity is a little bit low. It can be bumped up a little bit, and I don't want to distort the formula by trying to make it absolutely complete on its own, because that's next year's project.
So you're saying to add the egg or and?
Whatever you choose to bump the protein a little bit would be a great idea
That's an egg for the entire day or for each of the
for the
3
batch,
times?
for the 3. And 2, it'll give it a smoother texture. It's nice. Okay, where's the feedback from the drink? What do you think? Getting closer?
Was that the sugar alcohols one, with
Yes.
the egg and the 2 teaspoons of coconut oil?
Yeah, do you feel drunk at all?
No. How many of you are there? No, I thought it was good.
I thought it was delicious.
I liked it.
It works?
I like it better than the one that I make.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
the flavor was really good.
okay, yes.
I was afraid it was gonna be too sweet because most of those things that I taste are too sweet,
Uh-huh.
but it wasn't.
Good.
It tasted just right.
That was my only concern, is that some of you would say, oh, wow, it's too sweet. Okay. Did it have too much stevia?
Wasn't bad at all.
No,
No,
I
I
don't
don't
like
think
it.
so.
Do you have current instructions now for this last one you developed?
Current?
Uh-huh.
Well, it's the same. Same instructions,
Okay.
same amounts and everything, and then just add the oil and protein.
I think I need another one to let you know.
Okay, the Jerry will see you after class. Troublemaker.
That means rougher body work, huh?
When I tried on my own, the cane sugar,
Uh-huh.
for my taste bud is too sweet.
Uh-huh.
I tried the one that has nothing of the cane sugar, and I like that better.
Okay, and two, like with the one that has no sweetener in it, you throw a handful of frozen blueberries or something in it, and you make it taste however you want.
I didn't taste this one because tonight I'm doing my gallbladder cleanse, and I just had my oil about 20-30 minutes ago, so I didn't taste the one you made tonight.
You make us all jealous. No.
On the coconut oil, do you sell the coconut oil here? And if not, can you have any instructions for us? Like mothers, like you've instructed us what kind of honey to buy, what kind of olive oil to buy. Is there something to look for when I'm buying coconut oil?
Just smell and taste. Because smell makes a big difference. And yeah, we got a couple buckets of one coconut oil that was supposed to be just the best organic coconut oil, and you smell it and you taste it, it just didn't feel right.
But you do sell it here?
Yeah, the one that we have in the jars here is
Okay.
is a good one.
Okay.
It smells and tastes good.
Do you sell the colloidal silver?
Yes.
Oh, I was wondering on the one that isn't sweetened, couldn't you just add a little xylitol or stevia or whatever you wanted to
Sure.
sweeten that up?
On your
That
own,
way you could put it, make
Yeah.
it to your own level?
Yep. That's why we left that one, so you can do whatever you want with it.
Mick, this Ken was telling me that some of the olive oil they're doing in the gallbladder flush, they decided to try a different olive oil, a Bragg's, I think it's called, and said that it just didn't make them feel in any way nauseous like just the regular olive oil they're getting. I haven't tried it yet, but have we heard anybody else tried that?
You know,
That's what I like.
You do?
That's what I like to use, is the Bragg's.
Yeah.
yeah, you can use whatever you want. I've heard that Pennzoil doesn't work real well. But it's only visiting, and the main reason why we have in the instructions the light tasting, which you're not going to find at a health food store. The reason why the light tasting is because you don't want to be burping olive oil, and you don't want it to be a real negative experience by being a little bit too thick or too olive oily to where you start dreading doing it. The light tasting is so simple that you don't mind doing it.
One thing I'm planning to do the next time is have those glass straws that I can stick it behind my tongue and then just
Very
drink
good
it
idea.
without tasting
Yeah.
it.
Pamper yourself, because the easier you can make it on yourself, the less you'll dread it. And two, if you can, when you're drinking the olive oil mixture, if you can have a little chaser of a fruit juice right ready, before you even bring this glass down, have the next one up to your lips drinking it, and then you have peppermint or whatever you're going to put in your mouth, and you put it in your mouth right quick, wipe your mouth, and you're thinking whatever, the peppermint or whatever you stuck in your mouth, think nothing but that. Don't wash your glass or anything. Turn and walk away. Clean up later. But just keep thinking about the peppermint and the movie or something else. pamper yourself that way so that you don't start dreading it, because seriously, now that I'm watching more and more and more, I'm starting to see that, yes, according to our age, we should do as quickly as possible 1 gallbladder flush for every year of our lives. And now, say you do that over a couple of years' time, you know, you, for the most part, every single week, then when you get this feeling like, you know, I need to take a break, take a break. But then get back into it, and every week do another bunch of gallbladder flushes until you get to that point again, then back off. But the reason, there's 2 reasons why, besides just psychological benefits for the break, is because your gallbladder needs time to shrink. You need time to open up the nerve flow from the upper back, and you need time for the body to reverse more accumulation from the arteries and the whole body and load the gallbladder and liver up again. Because that's what we're doing. This is a major part of reversing the lifetime accumulation of garbage that we've accumulated. And until we get that stuff out, because keep in mind, the real simplified issue of all disease is the fact that, and it doesn't get any more complicated than this, because of our self-destruct, we contract areas of the body, and wherever the contractions are, then we load the physical substance that disease is made of. And that is chemicals, metals, dead tissue cells, the residue, unusable food residues, mucus, and acid waste. Altogether, those 6 items constitute what we call, very scientific term for it, poop. All disease is made of poop. If you had 0 poop in your body, you couldn't develop disease. Easy enough? And it doesn't matter, you got a skin rash, you got a problem here, there, whatever. What is the substance that is causing the problem? It's 1 or 2 or 3 or more of those 6 items. Nothing mysterious. Why is it in that particular area? Because all of our problems develop in a weakened area, either from direct damage or nerve flow restriction from the brain. Somewhere in the spine, we've either tweaked it, or a spasm, or something is reducing the nerve flow. Okay?
You mentioned taking a break between gallbladder flushes.
Yes.
How many gallbladder flushes will you go for before you take a break, and how long of a break would you recommend?
That's up to your body. It's
What I feel like?
when you get to that point where you feel like, no, I need a break. That's when you take a break. And then, you know, it's like anything when we fall off the wagon while we're doing a health program, after a little while it's easier to guilt ourselves back into it again. Whatever period of time you need to take that break, then come back into it and start going again. But the neat thing is, you do it every week every time you come back into it, try and do it each week, you know, for 4 or 5 weeks in a row, and go ahead and take a break again. But it's just whatever feels comfortable to you, but kind of keep it in the back of your mind that in order to get a real good reversal, it's going to take about 1 gallbladder flush for every year of your life just to get caught up with the backlog. And then, according to how clean your diet is, you decide from there whether you need that twice a year or 4 times a year. Which, speaking of that, that's what I'm kind of feeling like with the new 21-day program. Depending on how much you need it, you'll also be able to feel whether you need a program like this twice a year or at each quarter. Okay? But above all things, I'd like to encourage everyone to start listening to your own body, because it does talk. It'll tell you what you need and what you don't need. Okay? And when you start allowing it to guide you and you listen and cooperate, everything starts working. Now, the big problem that we've had in the past is we've come along and consciously imposed certain treatments or supplement programs or whatever onto the body, and you look at it from the innate wisdom of the body's point of view, and it's like, what an insult. Consciously, your choices screwed things up, and now you're going to come and fix it? Right? What we need to do is always remember that the starting point of all breakdowns is our self-destructive lifestyle habits. That's what causes the problem. There is no other problem. There's no mysterious force out here trying to destroy us. Yes, I know the whole world says that it's the polluted planet. But if we stop holding on to it because of our fears, we just let this garbage run on through us, there's no damage. The damage is caused because we don't get rid of it. We hold on to it because of our belief in stress and fear. We honor fear too much. It's not our fault. We've been trained that way. Right?
What's actually in the 21 days? The same as the 35 for life? I mean, as far as the different...
Kind of, well, because of the, as I mentioned in the email, because of the success that we've observed from the Biofilm Flush, we realized that if we incorporate that into the 30-day and alter it a little bit, instead of having to go for a full 30 days, which sometimes can get a little bit inconvenient, we can accomplish at least as much, if not more, in 21 days now by putting that into this same process. And so, first of all, the first 10 days is going to be like the first half of the 30-day. It's going to be feeding and cleansing. But the unique thing is we're immediately starting to work on moving out that biofilm. The same Baltone with the ozonated magnesium, Nutridophilus, and the mastic gum is going to be part of the entire 21 days. So you're working on pounding away at that biofilm for the full 21 days. But you're comfortably moving into it by having the essential light, which the essential light that we're putting in is this one, right?
Xylitol.
For the 21 day. And so you start out the first 10 days cleansing and feeding, and then like in the evening you finish off with preferably the broth, which will give the instruction for making the broth, and then according to your dietary habits and everything you alter it to fit your needs and your dietary plan. And there's an optional half cup of berries, which if you want you can put that into your drink in the morning. But you do the 10 days comfortably coming into it, which is really about as powerful as a cleanse can get. And then you dip into the really effective part, which is like the Biofilm Flush and Parasite Cleanse together. We're talking about starting World War III in the body against parasitic life forms and clearing all of them out. Because once you, when you clear the nests out of the intestinal tract, and then you add to that same powerful combination, the Parasite Cleanse, you're going to be turning things around. Everybody that isn't you is going to be wanting to get out of there quick. Yes?
What is the mastic or what's that?
Mastic gum is a resin from a tree over in the Mediterranean area that they found to be most effective at reversing H. pylori. And the way it works is it helps to clear the biofilm, but it also kills the bacteria and stimulates healing in the intestinal tract. So you got one substance that is doing all three, and now with the Baltone, of course, it's a buffered fiber drink so that it's very comfortable to the intestinal tract, but it also has the powdered aloe vera to stimulate healing, slippery elm. So basically what we're doing is very gently cutting that mucus and all the garbage out of the intestinal tract while stimulating in about 4 or 5 different ways, stimulating healing. Okay? And two, the same combination is restoring the intestinal flora because we have not only the probiotics, but of course there's several prebiotics in the same combination. So that's another exciting thing, is with one pleasant tasting lemonade drink, it's producing an ideal internal environment for the intestinal tract. Anyway, you do 10 days for the cleansing and feeding, 8 days of the parasite cleanse, then you come back into 3 days to finalize, that is the same as the first 10 days. Okay, so it's kind of the same theme as the 30-day, but just more condensed because of the effectiveness. Okay? Sound like a fun thing to do? Actually, it's not bad. How many of you did the Biofilm Flush? Okay. Was that difficult at all?
I thought I would be hungrier, and what was neat also is that as soon as I drank the blend, that you're supposed to drink, the psychic of picturing foods disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a woman phone me about a week ago, and a very close friend of hers was a fairly serious diabetic, ran out of money and could no longer afford insulin, and was freaking out because he didn't know what he was doing. So I told her, I got the perfect plan. If he's got enough money to buy lemons, we can fix him up. We sent him the Biofilm Flush, and after 3 days, the guy was on top of the world. Because keep in mind that it's geared up to where you can take a cancer patient, a diabetic, anybody, because the glycemic. That was one thing that I was a little bit concerned about, because really, with the Master Cleanse, you've got the maple syrup to keep your blood sugar up. Well, this doesn't have anything. So basically what it does is it forces you immediately to go into ketosis. And that's the body's true comfort zone. And so all 8 cylinders start firing and everything normalizes. I thought I would have, out of all the people that were doing that cleanse, I thought we'd at least get 2 or 3 people saying, whoa, my blood sugar dropped right to the bottom and I almost passed out. Have you heard anything? Anybody have any problems?
No one.
Everybody that has done it has felt just like you that, my gosh, I felt completely satisfied. That was my feeling too, is it was so much more satisfying than the Master Cleanse, because there's more of a bulk there. There's a feeling of fullness and satisfaction, and the whole body just says, oh yeah, this is good stuff. And you know, we've been brainwashed to believe that if you ever get diarrhea, that's a bad thing. That means you're sick or there's a real problem. Well, you kind of have to turn that around during this 6 days, because you have diarrhea all day, every day. And if you don't have diarrhea, in fact, we had a chiropractor and his wife come through the center last week, and the day after her gallbladder flush, the wife went to the afternoon with no bowel movements, which is totally unacceptable around here. I guess this could be considered cruel and unusual punishment, but we gave her 3 tablespoons of magnesium citrate.
Oh, my.
And then the next hour, 3 more.
Yes.
The next hour, 3 more. She got 12 tablespoons of magnesium citrate. And then she birthed. Oh, did she birth? I don't know who's first, yes.
A couple of points. One, with the lemonade and cayenne pepper, I felt some burning or a little discomfort.
Yes.
What I found very handy was coconut oil.
Uh-huh.
It just takes it away.
After I did it, and I don't know if you did it at the same time I did or shortly after, but then I put it into the instructions that it's okay to skip the cayenne pepper on day 1 for that same reason.
I think I did, but in the future I was feeling sensitive,
Oh, yeah?
and I found that coconut oil was a miracle. So
Okay.
if they find that helpful, that's an option.
Externally?
externally, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it soothes it.
Coconut oil on the exhaust pipe does work.
Exactly.
Or castor oil.
Because it throws you into ketosis so quickly,
Yes.
is there the feeling of what they refer to as ketosis flu?
Haven't had that because, you know, it's a lot like the Alzheimer's reactions when you're detoxifying. I believe that that is mostly because of an accumulation in the bloodstream that causes you to have those symptoms of the reversals and everything. And if you can keep all the pathways open well enough to where you don't allow the blood to accumulate that, I don't think you'll have the same experience. And no, nobody has reported any negatives like that, so obviously not. Now, keep in mind, most of us when we're detoxifying, and as I look back on all the cleanses that I've observed and that we've designed and altered through the years, that is always the biggest variable, is what in the heck is going on in the intestinal tract for each individual. Because you stop and think about, say, that like the chiropractor's wife, you know, when she does cleanses, if this was a common procedure that happened each time, when you stop eating regular foods and you start juicing and really cleaning up your diet, especially like the people that are doing the raw food diets, they definitely experience this. When you shift into such a high quality diet like that, it amps the vitality at the tissue level. And what is the body's highest priority? It's to dump the sewage. And when the body's vitality comes up like that, it dumps so rapidly that the pathways that aren't completely open get blocked. And that's when you start developing a lot of the symptoms. And a lot of people that go into the raw food diet a little too quickly, and they experience this, their brain is busy saying, my gosh, I'm supposed to be feeling all this energy, I'm supposed to be getting better and feeling great, and I feel like I'm being poisoned. Well, that's only because they are being poisoned, because they didn't get the pathways open first. So with this 21-day and the Biofilm Flush, because the intestinal tract is creating diarrhea all day long, any trash that gets released is going to get released quite quickly. And two, keeping up with the detox baths, you're keeping your blood and your lymph clean. And then doing, on the 4th day, you do the gallbladder flush, and then of course in the 21-day you do it each week. You keep that pathway open. I don't think you can have the reversals or a negative feeling. That's the key to it, is keeping all the doors and windows open so that you get rid of all the garbage quick enough to where you don't back up and feel poisoned or low energy.
The chiropractor's wife, was she on the Biofilm previously to doing the flush?
No.
No.
Oh, okay.
She was brand new. Sorry, what is the biofilm flush? What is the biofilm?
It's what is now the interwoven in the new 21-day. It's a new combination of the Biofilm, where we have ozonated magnesium, Nutridophilus, blended right into the Biofilm, and then we put the mastic gum in, which is the substance. It's that resin from the tree that will help kill the bacteria, remove the biofilm, and kill the bacteria. Did I say that already? And then stimulate healing.
What was the yellow stuff that I was releasing?
Eliminating?
Exactly. Was that bile? Because it was distinct more yellow than the
Yeah.
other
You're
stuff.
diluting it. But see, it's the bile that colors the stool brown. It's at different regulations. In fact, somebody that I was talking to today, the 2nd day after the gallbladder flush, the whole stool was a blue-green. Now the green, of course, was stronger bile. The yellow is more dilute bile. And I figured the blue had to have been probably DDT.
Wow.
Yes, some people
From
here
foods.
have DDT even though it's been illegal to use it here, what we do is it's manufactured in California, they send it south of the border, grow our food, send the food back, and we get poisoned with DDT.
Does it help pull mucosoid plaque from the intestinal tract?
Does it what?
Does it help pull the mucosoid plaque from the?
Yes.
It does.
That's, see, the lemonade is like a knife. It's cutting the mucus. And then all the other tools enhance that.
Right.
But one of the main tools right there is the lemonade. So that's the reason why if you don't do well on lemon, that's undercutting the whole process quite a bit. But this is the combination. Like, see, for the 21 day, we've got the bigger jar of the same stuff because it's got to last you 21 days. But this is the one that we still have, like if somebody just wants to do the Biofilm Flush, the 6-day Biofilm Flush, we still have that available.
So if they haven't done the Belton before, because of the ratio of the magnesium, they're gonna probably need more in the beginning. So would that have enough, or would they maybe need to buy the magnesium as
It
well?
should
just
be,
to-
unless there's a
Yeah,
lot
I'm
of
thinking-
stuff.
Yeah, if they haven't
We
done that
also are
before,
giving a small magnesium in addition to the
Good.
trio
Because it makes sense they'll need
for
more
people
of
that
that
need a
in the
little bit
beginning.
more.
Yeah. Yes.
So what's the reason for starting out the first 10 days with the feeding and the cleansing and then doing the biofilm and parasite flush? Why wouldn't you just start out getting all that out of there first and then moving into the feeding and the cleansing?
That was my first thought, and then we put our heads together and looked at it from the point of view of an individual coming into a cleanse like that. As an average, some people that hadn't cleansed before, it would just be a more comfortable way to start wearing it down and getting prepared, cleaning the blood, cleaning the body, and then hammering it, and it would just be a whole lot more effective. Yeah, my feeling was in the beginning, pull out the bazookas and before they even realized the.
Right, hammer it right in the
Yeah, just hammer them right away. But then we got to talking about it and thinking, okay, let's alter the internal environment first and then hit them so hard, because 21 days isn't that long, and it's a rapid shift. And by the time you get past the first 10 days and you go into the next one, it's pretty harsh on viruses, bacteria, parasites.
They're already struggling.
They're already having a tough time, and they're wondering which direction they can go. And then when they get hit with the parasite cleanse along with that intestinal flush, they're looking for a new home.
Would a colon hydrotherapy treatment be useful or a waste while you're doing all that? Depending on the person, I suppose.
It'd be a good timing situation to see if you can catch it between diarrhea.
Right.
Oh.
You're being turned inside out, so it would be kind of redundant.
I believe I have experienced hypoglycemia in the past, unless it was anxiety attacks. Some, not a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
During the 6-day BioCleanse, I had the sensation that I was going to get the initial feeling,
Mhm.
but it went nowhere. Like
Wow.
you said, because it didn't have any sugar,
Mm-hmm.
it just kept me back to normal.
Good, good. Keep in mind with anxiety attacks or anything else, always look for an excuse to heal the reasons behind anxiety and these issues. Because what is anxiety? And it's very common. Anxiety is waiting for the next shoe to drop when you're not quite sure when the first one dropped, because most likely it was before you were born. Does that make sense? So you don't know what to expect, but from the DNA, you're being inspired that there's got to be something terrible going to happen. I can feel it in my bones. Anxiety is anticipation of something that you dread and something that you don't want to experience, but you probably haven't really experienced it before. So it's usually coming up from the DNA. And so it's just a good sign that, okay, it's time to do the healing through the portals of time and clear that, to be free from it. Because to really be free from our personal saboteurs, we've got to heal those traumatic memories. As long as we have the traumatic memories, and we got one of these meat bags, we are going to be self-destructive. Just the way it is. We will be self-destructive, but we're always working to be less and less self-destructive by healing the traumatic memory in the DNA and the brain through healing through the portals of time. Okay? That's our real escape to alter our expectations. We are always determining what to expect in life, and that's how we can free that up. Okay? Everybody happy and understand the new flushing cleanse? Everybody looking forward to it? Actually, you know, when you think about, I know every time I get ready to do a 30-day, I think, wow, 30 days, that seems like a mini eternity. But 21 days, it's like, okay, 3 weeks, no big deal.
We've done the 6-day biofilm. Is it okay to do the 21 or shall?
Sure. Yeah, you just better prepare. See, the neat thing is, whatever we do, we have a lifetime accumulation of this garbage and a lifetime accumulation of damage in the body. And the damage can't really get healed until we get enough of the garbage out to increase the vitality to the point where the body can heal. And so it's a matter of a volume of work to do. It's like each one of us have a whole room full of dirty dishes. Okay, we can either putter around and wash one dish at a time and then go play or goof around, then come and wash another one and take the rest of our lives and find that we still have a whole room full of dirty dishes by the end of our lives, or we can just get stuck in and figure out faster, more efficient ways to wash more dishes faster. And that's what these cleanses are. When you're doing the body chemistry support system, you're advancing and you're coming up out of that self-destruct pattern anyway. But when you do either like the 30-day or this 21-day, it's like a step straight up. It's a shortcut getting you faster to where you want to go, because it's all a volume of work that needs to be done to just clean the body up and get the pathways opened up again so that it can function normally. And basically what we're looking at is quality of life. We've had a lifetime, everybody in this room has had a lifetime of seeing those that have gone on before us and thinking, I don't think I'll do old age. I think I'll bypass that somehow. You know, because it didn't look very fun. You watch the, 20 years ago, you watch the average 70-year-old, and they looked like it was taking more effort just to move the body than to do a full day's exercise. But nowadays, just from the things that we've learned, 70-year-olds now are like 50-year-olds back then. And by the time we get to 80 and 90, it'll be that same ratio will go ahead of us to the point where if anybody in this room kicks the bucket before you're 130, you're committing suicide. Okay? Because if you apply these principles, there's no reason for you to jump out of your body before 130 years of age. But what is the big issue is the quality of life while you're in the body. It isn't longevity. It isn't how long can we endure the planet, but it's can you get rid of every ache and pain in the body and restore the body to a fit and healthy 35-year-old and be able to take that to 130 years of age, and then at that time just decide, I'm ready for something else. Just lie down and relax and let go and get on with another adventure. That's the way to die, not with degenerative disease. Degenerative disease is just ignorance, okay? We have to overcome that and realize that we've been taught that ignorance. We've been taught how to self-destruct to the point of being scared that, that's one of the greatest motivators for those who are diagnosed with degenerative disease is the fear of death motivates them to get away from that again, but that's still not in the realm of creating health. What I would like to encourage everyone in the room here to do is to focus on creating what you really want to enjoy in life and create that quality that will make life enjoyable. Because the greatest principle in our lives is the principle of focused attention. That is the principle that determines every circumstance in our life. Wherever we hold the focus of our attention, we polarize that and make it a part of our lives. It's because of the power of that principle that each one of us is going to experience our greatest fears and our greatest desires. And so we have the choice by simply focusing in the direction that we want to go. So that's the reason why instead of becoming disease-free, that's a horrible focus. What we want to do is stay focused on creating a level of health where disease can't even exist, so we don't have to go down and be poked and prodded to find out what we're busy creating. Because we're not busy creating anything that we don't want to experience. It's not a form of denial, it's a form of awareness. Because when you listen to your intuitive guidance and you're listening and following it, you know if there's something not quite right. You know better than a diagnostic procedure. That's what you need to rely on, is just know that if you fine-tune your ability to listen to your own body, it's a more fine-tuned than the very most sophisticated diagnostic procedures. Okay, so it isn't going into denial and just not going down to be checked out because you're in denial, but it's because you know your own body better than anybody else can, and you know that you're taking care of it in such a way that it can't break down. Sound good? All right. Shoot, we got it all accomplished already?